Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel. Hope you're well. Thank you for joining me again, and apologies for the late one. It's about 9 o'clock, far later than I was planning on. I was at Gatwick Airport today picking up some people who legally came into the country. Well, they do live here, they do have tickets, they do have passports, and they did have the right to be here, unlike the individuals I'm going to be talking about shortly. And as per usual, Farage has blown the lid on the whole thing in some very simple statements and questions within the House of Commons, which is what I'll come to in a minute. Of course, the subject of this video is what's been discussed and what's been talked about today with regard to the immigration policy in this country. Starmer has come on the television, well, the BBC of all places, and he's come out and said that they're going to strengthen the rules regarding immigration. They're going to do things like cut visas for workers coming over to work in, say, the care sector. That's all well and good, and I would be behind it. But if you did that immediately, I can guarantee you every care home in this country would collapse overnight. I've seen it with my own eyes. But that besides, it's just rhetoric. It's just swinging a little to the right of politics because it seems convenient because of the threat that reform is posing at the moment. And it just proves there is no left and there is no right in our politics anymore. It's all about that global image that let's just do what we need to do to keep ourselves in power. That's what it's all about. Before I go any further, I find the whole timing of this very convenient indeed, considering we had this little fracas come out. I'm not going to play the video. There are others that have done it, but you can see the scene there, and you know what I'm referring to, of course. And one of the things there is it's fake news set up by Russia to discredit us, blah, 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 blah. Now, you had that, and all over our news, there literally wasn't any coverage at all. It was more of a social media event. And, you know, they're never going to admit it either way. I didn't comment on it because even though I have my own opinion of it, you can't be certain that you can go too far down that road, although it is quite self-evident to the untrained eye, isn't it? Anyway, back to the problem, immigration. I want to show you this first of all, and it's Keir Starmer. Have a listen.
These rules become even more important. Without them, we risk becoming an island of strangers, not a nation that walks forward together. So when you have an immigration system that seems almost designed to permit abuse, that encourages some businesses to bring in lower-paid workers rather than invest in our young people, or simply one that is sold by politicians to the British people on an entirely false premise, then you're not championing growth, you're not championing justice, or however else people defend the status quo. You're actually contributing to the forces that are slowly pulling our country apart. So yes, I believe in this. I believe we need to reduce immigration significantly.
We know, of course, from previous experience with Keir Starmer, empty words. None of what he's just said is ever going to transpire into anything meaningful. And what always makes me smile is the whole way they package up immigration as one whole thing. They don't talk about the various elements. Now, one of the major problems I have, and it forms part of the background behind me, or the outline of this video piece, is the channel, that stretch of water between us, and literally hundreds upon hundreds of individuals we know nothing about continue to come over that stretch of water every day. Why can't we control it? Why can't we stop it? What really is going on across that space? Now, I included Farage in the title to this video for very good reason. And I want to show you this.
Yeah. Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. The Home Secretary will be aware that 5 years ago I warned that if we didn't leave the ECHR and deport immediately those that arrived in Dover via small boats, that there would be an invasion. Yeah. And sure enough, I was right. Yeah. Today, a further 600 young men already today have been processed through Dover. Perhaps the odd Iranian terrorist among them. Who knows?
How do you know? How do you know?
Does the Home Secretary accept
How do you know that
their policy of smash the gangs is a complete and total failure? And if that's the case, why should we believe anything else they said?
Well, the honourable member, no one should be making these dangerous boat crossings. They undermine our border security and they put lives at risk. Criminal gangs who are organising these dangerous boats are making a fortune, profiting from these dangerous boat crossings. And that's why we need counter-terrorism style powers to be able to go after the gangs. That is the opportunity for him and his party to vote for those counter-terrorism powers tonight so that we can strengthen our border security. Previously, he and his party voted against those counter-terrorism powers. I think we need counter-terrorism style powers to strengthen our border security in order to be able to go after those criminal gangs. Does he?
There's a couple of things I want to point out to react to that video. First of all, Nigel Farage pointed out 600 further people today alone across the channel. How can we sustain that forever? Of course we can't. And he made the comment, and I thought it was a very clever comment, and I'll give Farage his due here. A terrorist might have been among them. Jeremy Corbyn sat behind him, perked up and said, how do you know? How do you know that? Of course, he's asking that for totally different reasons to what we are. But that is the point. That illustrates the point. How do we know who are in those boats? What their intentions are when they get here? Why are those boats never mentioned specifically when they talk about immigration? It's the whole thing as a whole entity, usually, and that gets conveniently pushed to one side. How do we know? The answer is we don't. We don't know who they are, what they have planned once they get here, and where they've come from, because inevitably their identification, once they've been escorted most of the way over, gets thrown in the drink. Yvette Cooper, let's talk about her. She talks about anti-terrorism style legislation to help police this. You don't need anti-terror style legislation to police it. The law is already in place to police it. The law of the land and the sea, just for one. Border Force, why aren't they doing their job properly? I had a look at this, and if there's not a state of war, which, let's face it, there could be at any time soon, then it is the job of the civilian agencies to enforce our borders, Border Force, not the military. So why are they meeting these craft halfway over and bringing them in between them and the French? She talks about smashing the gangs, but the gangs will carry on. How far is that chain of gangs bringing these people to the French coastline and across here? It's very simple, and no one seems to get it. All the while they make landfall, all the while they get here, then it will continue. It's, and I've said it before, it's like a business, and the end product is here. You remove the end product, you end the business. It's very simple economics. Yvette Cooper, up a gum tree, she hasn't got a clue what she's talking about. Nigel is bang on the money. Starmer, empty rhetoric, as per usual. And as the title of this goes, Farage exposes it, totally and utterly exposes it. And it will go on until a government is in place who can deal with it. Border security is very, very, very important. Now, this has been diluted over the course of, well, a good couple of 100 years, because in the maybe 1800s, you had the Militia Act, where groups of locals with government approval, I might add, could set up and defend our coast and our borders against outside aggression, outside aggressors. I would consider this to be one of those cases. The Militia Act morphed into parts of the Army Act, where you get created the reserves, the territorial army, whatever else they may be called, and you know how they're used and how they're deployed nowadays. So the defence of our own country is null and void. We've got a lot of problems, folks, and we're relying on a civilian agency, which is what the law says, that won't do the job properly. Farage is right. It's a big problem, and he's exposed it. You let me know what you think in the comments. Please, if you're able to, share this on your social media, because it does help the channel and spread awareness of this bullshit, really. Please hit the like button, subscribe to the channel if you haven't, and as always, I look forward to talking to you soon. Toodaloo.